participate right now or not. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the very first Principal Exchange. I'm Rhonda Dillingham, Executive Director of the North Carolina Association for Public Charter Schools, and I'm so happy that you were able to join us today. This is an idea that sort of came out of the fact that when I was visiting schools and talking with lots of different school leaders and charter school stakeholders over the summer, I discovered that there was a lot of turnover this year in school administration. And a lot of these new school leaders just have a lot of questions and they need a lot of support. And so I decided that it would be a good idea for us to start this principal exchange so that people could get answers to their questions and they could lean on each other for the support that they need. So I am so happy today that we're going to start off with somebody that I admire very much. Thomas McKoy is currently the principal at Reaching All Minds STEM Academy in Durham. He's from Elizabethtown, North Carolina, and he graduated from UNC Chapel Hill in 2007 with a BA in sociology and a minor in exercise sports science. And then in 2008, he earned his MA in school counseling. In 2018, Thomas was honored with the Radio 1 Youth Outreach Lamplighter Award for positive community impact. And we're so proud that this year he shares the title with Steve Pond of Charter School Principal of the Year, and that is sponsored by Charter One. So Thomas volunteers as an assistant men's basketball coach at a local high school. He's a mentor and musician at his church. And interesting enough that probably a lot of you share the same background. His parents are both educators. So we're happy to have you with us, Thomas and Angela, and we're going to let you take it from here, and then we'll see if there are any questions or comments that come on along the way. And we just thank you so much for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dillingham. We really appreciate the invite and this opportunity to share with our fellow charter leaders and to exchange some information and just really get to know each other. So I did want to introduce Ms. Angela Cheek. She's here at Reaching All Minds Academy as well. She's our managing director, but she's been here from the start. So I felt like there were some pieces that she could share as well that would be a great tool because it kind of worked as a team to make this thing happen. So I wanted her to share some of her insights as well. But we just have a few points that we wanted to share that we found over the years that kind of worked for us and through some of our growing pains. So we're just excited to share a little bit of that with you. And if there's any questions or anybody has any thoughts or something sticks out, just put it in the chat box. But this is an exchange. So if you want to hop on or unmute, feel free to do so. And we can definitely get some good conversation going. So let me pull up presentation. So you've already heard about who I am, so I'll just skip past that. But we just talked today about our journey here and from going from ideally what we wanted to have when we started out on this charter journey and creating our school and then what really happened. And so that's a conversation that Ms. Cheek and I would kind of have back and forth. And we would talk about, when we first started, we had these dreams and we had these goals and we had everything that we want to accomplish and we were going to save the world. all before 4 o'clock every day. And it was amazing, and it got us pumped up, and we were super excited about it. But then, school opened, and we realized there are a lot of nuts and bolts and things that you have to do just to get ready. And we had to operate in the reality of some of those dreams might be put on hold. And so we started taking notes and writing things down of, what is that we dream about, and then what do we have to do to actually achieve it. And we had some good some good points along the way from some mentors that said, hey, you can't do everything right away. And that was one of the first lessons. I think we got that the day before we opened. We had one of our mentors come from the Triangle chapter of the Links, and she said, listen, all of those dreams are good, but just get open and get the kids here and make it happen. And so that was our first lesson. And as a new leader, or my first lesson is like, hey, the dreams are great, but you got to do what you have to do to keep the doors open. And it was a small lesson, but it was actually a huge piece just to realize that you don't have to do everything in one big swoop. And it takes time to build something and to build the foundation properly. So that was definitely a key lesson that we learned. But what it took to open was that big dream. You as a charter, we're here to innovate. We're here to push the limits. We're here to grow. And so one of our first process of way of thinking was, we had to think big and think RAM, push the limits. What can we do that no one else is doing? Or what can we do that's not being done in the local school? And our founding board member was always pushing us to do more and to think bigger than what we already had. And I think that was important for us to really set those dreams big. And as a part of that, once we got to our mission and our vision, it was getting us on the ground and getting us moving. But we realized we had to set big dreams, but then set realistic goals. And those goals would help us get to how we could achieve some of those dreams. So the reality of it was that we had 5 big picture items that we wanted to do, that we wanted to be the best at. But the reality of it, we just had to pick one of those and build some goals around that and start working step by step. So that was our first example of starting from a big dream and then moving to something that was realistic and just taking one of those and really breaking it down. And so we did that through our mission, through our vision, through our core values. Now, everybody has their mission, vision, and, we've got it on the nice boards in the front of the school. But I would challenge you to really stop and think about what your mission and vision is really saying. And so if you're a new leader, you probably didn't write the mission and vision. Maybe you did if you're at a new school, but it's going to be really taking that down and really breaking it apart to see, what does this really look like? Like if I had to take a student and I wanted them to embody what this mission and vision and our core values mean, what would that student look like after they leave our institution and they leave our family? And so we really broke down that process as leaders to see, what did we really want? And it was instrumental for us to do that because it gave us an understanding and an idea of some of the things that we felt were important or individually were excited about. They didn't fit with our mission or our vision. And so we had to make the hard decision to put those to the side and maybe find another way to integrate them in the after school program or somewhere else. But we had to stay focused on that mission and vision to truly achieve what we set out to do.
If I could just interject really quickly, Mr. McKoy, I know that some growth pieces for me and some things that I enjoyed learning in that process of drilling down and creating realistic goals is keeping my focus on that desired outcome and that end product and making and being that's the student that we want as our finished product, that child who embodies everything that's in our mission and vision what are the prerequisites that are necessary to make that happen, to come up with those realistic goals? We had to ask ourselves those questions. And it's so easy to get stuck on that end point and not drill down through to those processes. So I appreciate the learning that happened in this phase around that.
That's good. Thank you. So just for our participants and anyone watching, we just take a moment and think about, your community, the families in your school, the students, and look at your mission, your vision, your goals. Visualize what that desired outcome would look like if it was actually fulfilled. Like, what would that actually be if we could turn it into a product, which is what we're working to do. But if you could have a product and present it to us right now, what would that actually be? If you maybe just take one of your goals or one of the things that you're working on in your schools. And I see we got a few participants online. I don't know if Ms. Young or Mr. Herbert want to give us one of their examples in the chat box, or unmute and respond. Give them a few minutes to think about it. 20 seconds.
So, good afternoon. This is Ms. Young speaking. Our school focuses on the theme. We have two concurrent themes, right? One is environmental and the other is global. So what our CIS student will look like is someone who is willing to put service, to intertwine service with being a global citizen. What does that look like in terms of understanding that there are problems out there that can be solved? So how do we make them become solutions oriented using this global mindset, moving away from the narrow idea of it is just us to we're in this whole situation together. So what problem can we solve so that we all benefit? So that's part of something that I always ask the staff. What does a CIS student look like? What does a Carolina International School student look like? What do we do? How do we shape and form the thinking so that they can see a problem and attempt not to solve it, but to solve it using what they've learned about being a global citizen. And the same with the environmental piece. To me, that's the piece that we have to get better grounded in, but the global citizenship, we're working on that piece every single day with our students.
Thank you, Ms. Young. That's great. We need to link up after this because those are two points and topics that we're kind of diving into. That's a part of our mission and vision as well, of taking that global citizenry and how can we think outside of just our community. And with that environmental piece, we're also doing a project where we're having our students work on the water crisis around the world. So not just here, but how can they impact that? And so what does that look like? So what do you see when that student, when they leave your program, what do you see them doing?
I see advocates. I see students who understand that there are many problems that can have, like each problem can have many solutions. So let's just try to solve one of them, understanding that this may not be the right solution or the solution that is best for the situation. And that's okay, as long as we can look at it through a lot of different lenses and work on solving it, work on coming up with a variety of solutions, and not just, it's okay if we come up with a solution and it doesn't work, we can land on another possible solution. So a child who is resilient and does not give up because they understand where they fit in the larger, the grander scheme of things.
So that's good. So you've been breaking that down, and that's exactly what it takes to really break that down and know what it looks like. And even once it gets into the classroom and you're working with the teachers, it's it's getting down even to a smaller level of like every student should have traveled outside of the country, and they should have worked on this actual pick an actual topic that's of world importance and actually produce a project or an outcome that can actually service the community of the citizen. And so it's really forcing to think about what it is that we want them to do. So that dream, taking that dream that you see and that you feel and that you know what it is, and it's hard to put it into words and to define it, but the closer we get to defining it, we can actually get the students closer to achieving it. So
Absolutely.
that's amazing work that it sounds like you're doing. And so we look forward to linking up. Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely.
thank you for your participation. So I'd say our next point that I shared, that we'd share of what worked for us or what we had to learn, was using the data to drive it. Let the data tell it, as Ms. Cheek says it. And I'll let her hop in here because this is one of her sweet spots of just moving from the emotional feeling of, we're here and we're doing this good, but what does the data really say about what we're trying to achieve for our students?
Thank you, Mr. McKoy. We, in getting started and establishing relationships and a rhythm in our charter, you all know that people will come throughout the day with various concerns and questions, and they're fired up, they're emotional, they're, let me say, passionate about what they're bringing to us. And they may say comments like, well, I just don't know what to do. The kids, they can't read, they can't do it, they're not getting it. Oh, I've reached out to parents, I can't communicate with the parents. And it's just a lot of blanket and vague statements. And just to kind of piggyback off of what Ms. Young was saying, just no specifics. And so it's like, well, wait a minute. Who can't read? What about the reading are they struggling with? What parents have you reached out to? What was the obstacle that prevented you from having successful communication? And those drill down pieces were not there. That data was not present. And it wasn't to just completely discount their concerns, because there were kids struggling with literacy, and the student achievement and the academic data could show that. And there was a lack in parental involvement and communication. The sign-in sheets and the communication laws can show that, but training up a particular culture where don't just come with a concern, but you also want to be solutions oriented, have some specifics that you can pull from so that we can ask the right questions, so we can put the right processes in place. Just coming and saying they can't read does not give enough information. And so making sure that we are being led by data and not emotions, and that our team also is being led by data and not their emotions. Because, in the ebbs and flow of a school year, they have those spikes where people are charged up, excited, and ready to take over. And then you have days where you feel like 50% of your team is called out. They need personal mental health days and such. But again, even then, just making sure that we could take the feelings out of it and look at the facts, look at the data, look at the events, and make real sound decisions. So that is an expression that I love. Let the data tell it. So don't come with a whole bunch of drama and emotions and your feelings, but let's talk about what we're dealing with and how can we be solutions oriented around it.
That's great. And so this is nothing new. We hear this in our training. We hear it when we go to professional development. We hear it in school, but it's that important, and it's important to keep repeating. We have to let the data drive what we're doing, drive the instruction, drive our decision making. And then from that data, once we get there, now we can put our care, our concern on it. And so even with that, for us, it turned into us evaluating like our core values and coming up with our, what are we defined by? And so for us, it was bold. And so we wanted people who could believe it, own it, love it, and do it. And so we know what we felt and the type of people we were looking for and what we wanted to have done, but we were like, we need to define it and put a measure on so we can quantify it. And so we said, these are the things that we want from our people. We want them to have a crazy amount of belief in when they walk into the building. So we're in a low income neighborhood, 93% free reduced lunch, 100% minority population. So we said we've got to have people who believe in the work that we're doing. Otherwise, it'll be too much. And then the O is for ownership. It's really taking ownership of the process, what it's going to take to get this done, and moving away from the excuses that, oh, we're in a poor neighborhood, or the kids don't have this, or the parents aren't doing this. It's like, no, we've got to own this process and realize that we're the ones who can actually affect that change. And then the L is for the love that it will take. So, once we've established those things, we have to put our love for the community, for the students, for the families, for the education. I tell the students all the time, I love school. Like, I love everything about it. I love being here. And I just love this process. And the D is for just getting it done. Like, when it's time for action, it's time to stop talking, it's time to go do it. And so those are pieces that drive us. But as new leaders, I would say it's important to work on building that educational philosophy, using the data that you gather and using your experiences to continually build your philosophy around who you are as a leader and what it is that you want your school to do. And so that was kind of our 4 to 5 year process of building out, of coming up with BOLD. And we had a little bit here, a little bit there. And some of your established schools, you're just the new leaders. So it's really taking that time to go yourself and dig back through that founding process and find those core values that got your organization going, and find out how you can tap into that spirit. And if you're starting from the ground up, it's going to be you and your team really pushing that forward and having people think about why you're really there, and using that data to do it. Now, what we found, as a new leader, and you'll hear it, it's the people, not just the process, And so when we were building our team, when we first started, we had people who believed in what we were doing and they were on board, but we had to grow and realize that we need people that fit into two categories: people who fill the right seat and who are the right fit for our organization. And so using this kind of guideline in your hiring so that you can find people who can stay and who can move in the direction that you're going. And so for right seat, that's really just finding the exact place where that staff member or that teacher belongs. So you may end up with having a math teacher that's teaching science just because that's what you needed to make it work. But when you're really building your organization and you have the ability to hire the right way, you want to get that person in the seat that they're going to make the most impact. And when they're in that right seat, you can see movement take place. And that's very important. I mean, and as a new leader, that was one of the hardest challenges that I faced, because we had some people who were in the wrong seat, and it was some challenging and tough conversations to get them in the right place. But it needed to be done so that as an organization, we could keep growing. And then the second part is right fit. Now for fit, that's do the people get it? Do they have the capacity to do it? And are they going to take ownership of it? Like, are they the type of person that you want in your organization? And this is where sometimes you end up having to let someone go, because if they're not a right fit, they could be a great teacher, but if they don't fit the culture of what you're trying to do, and if they can't see the vision and you're not moving in the same direction, it'll do more harm than good, even if they're a good teacher or a good person in that role. And so it's definitely hard as a new leader having those conversations and seeing that growth for the organization, but it's so important to the future success of your organization, your school, to make sure that you have that tough conversation. Now, once you get everyone in the right seat and you've got people who are the right fit, then you know it's building that culture. Now, if you have the right fit type people, culture becomes easy because you have used your core values to get the right fit and to identify people who have what you're looking for. So the culture actually will come easy. And so we've seen that, I'd say, especially this year, we've got people who fit our bold culture and they kind of take it and run with it. And it's been amazing to see when that happens.
Yes.
But as a part of that collaborative culture, you know, what I realized as a new leader is that the students were no longer my students. The teachers had become my students. And that was hard because, you know, when we're in this for the kids. And I realized, like, as much as I like jumping in a class or working with the kids because it's that direct, that thing that makes us feel good, and it's why we got into education. It's like no one else in our school can impact the teachers like I can, or like our admin team can. And if we're focused only on students, then our teachers are going to go lacking. And so it really took like a mindset shift for me to say, hey, you've got to become more involved to knowing what the teachers need, how they're feeling, what's going on in their lives, what type of data do they need from you, what do they want from you to grow. And then once we saw them as our students, it started to work. Because like, okay, if I take care of the teachers, then the teachers, if they're the right seat, right fit, and they buy into our culture, they're going to take care of the kids. And so it's going to be a win-win for us. And, you know, for us, that looked like, you know, we've taken our staff on multi-professional development sessions where we've gone to Arizona, we've gone to Texas, Philadelphia. We took a group to Taiwan to do a cultural exchange trip with the school there. So we really wanted to pour into them and let them know that they were valued, because as a new leader, I'll tell you, I found out that the teacher is the most important tool for student achievement.
Right.
Like we've changed curriculums, we've done everything we can, and the processes are there, and we've changed them and fixed them and moved them. But a good teacher is a good teacher, and it doesn't matter what system they're in, what process they're in. A good teacher is going to get results, and that was a lesson that was very valuable, but one that I keep very closely. And we have a teacher now who wants to retire, and she tries to retire every year, but she's just too good in achievement. So I do whatever I can to keep her happy and keep her on board, because teachers are valuable. When you find a good teacher that's right seat, right fit, they're valuable. And so making sure as a leader you take care of them, because that's the most valuable asset. So this is just an example. I think this was right before our holiday break. We wanted our students to celebrate the teachers. So we had them all wait in the classroom. They thought they were coming for an assembly for the students, but we had made up some special plaques for them so that they could hang in their room or hang at their home, in their homes, just to show their classroom, and a certificate of appreciation, just to let them know that we cared about them. And many of them said that was one of the best gifts that we had ever given them, and they were really proud. So just doing those little things that I know we all do to celebrate our teachers, but it matters and it's important. I think you're muted, Ms. Chief.
Thank you. So now we have an interactive activity for you to participate in, and you can either unmute and share, or you can share in the chat. But we'd like for you to list 3 of your school goals and then rate if your action steps taken towards those goals show that you are interested in those goals, or if you are committed to those goals. Now, before you respond, I would like for you to listen to Mr. McKoy's explanation of being interested versus committed.
So when we think about being a leader, there's a lot of decisions that we have to make, a lot of things that are before us each and every day. And there's a mentor that I listen to online. His name is John Assaraf, and he says when he was a young man, a mentor called him to his office. He says, "Are you interested or are you committed to achieving these goals and to these things that you say you want to do?" And he says, "Well, what's really the difference?" He said, "Well, if you're just interested, you'll do it as long as it's convenient, or it's working out, or it's there and everybody's joining in, and as long as things are going well, you'll do it and you'll be excited about it." He says, "But when things get really hard, it'll be one of the first things to go because it's just an interest. It's not something that you have to get done." He said, "But if you're committed to that, then you do whatever it takes to make sure that goal gets achieved." And so when we think back to our section about you letting the data talk about it, or committing to your staff or to your teachers, think about what are some of those most important things, the goals that you have, and then what are you doing to show that you're truly committed to that, like that you're willing to go above and beyond to make that happen because it's so important for your organization. And so if someone has, we can list 3, but if someone has one they want to share and some steps they've taken to actually go above and beyond, that would be great for us to hear.
All right. Yes. Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Yes. I'll have one that stands out. This is one of my top goals in the school. That's in my school improvement plan to enhance the rigor and the content delivery of my Math 1, 9th grade. That was the lowest area in the school over the last few years. And I know people talk about goals. Let's get these test scores up. But like you're saying, what steps are you taking to actually show that you're not just only interested in getting your test scores up, but you're committed? One thing that I did, I'm not gonna say, well, I moved in another direction with my Math 1 teacher. I'll say it like that. And I actually went out and I hired a doctor who specializes in math. So that lets you know I was very interested, because I would not fill that position with anything less than someone who's going to come in here and take care of my babies. And I know that they're going to take care of them. And I know that they have different methods other than a traditional method that apparently the students are not responding to. And when we spoke in depth about the methods of getting students interested in math, getting them excited about math, this conversation went on for about a week before I even offered them the position, because I want to see if this person actually had the same interest and the same commitment I had for these babies. And I actually I have these students that are double blocked. I double blocked that math class. That's another thing I did to also help that goal, to make sure those students are getting the support, the extra support that they need from a very, very highly qualified staff member who is already making a difference. And we only at week 6, week 7. He's already making an impact with that group of students. So that's one thing. And I think that's very big. And once again, you have to be committed to that, because you can't say, I'm going to set these students up for success because I'm interested in doing it, but you're not doing anything. You're not providing the proper resources or the proper personnel to actually fulfill that goal. So.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert. Shout your school out. What school are you at?
Oh, Mountain Island Charter School, Mount Holly, North Carolina.
Okay.
We're on the island. Yes, we call it the island.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing. And that's big. That shows a level of commitment to go out
Yes.
and get a doctorate for Math 1. You know, most people reserve, you know, high level instructors for the high level classes, but to do it for Math 1, that's a commitment. And so we commend you for that.
Well, that's how you get the low level to become high level. You can't short the low level, expecting them to do it on their own. You have to go down there and you have to provide them more resources and you know, and better personnel.
Awesome.
Excellent outlook.
Thank you for sharing. So as we kind of come to the end, you know, there's a few things that, you know, we're kind of putting this together. We were looking at what are some things, like I just asked myself, you know, what are some things that like some new leaders or as leaders we should have? And I actually was talking about it with my wife, and she says, well, think about the leaders in your life, not just recently, but throughout your life, your coaches, whoever. What did they have that made you feel they were a good leader, or that attracted you to them? And it, you know, I stepped back and thought about it. And the first thing that came to my mind was my Little League baseball coach. And I played a lot of sports. I played like 5 or 6 sports from the time I was 4 or 5 years old all the way through high school. So I went through a lot of coaches. They all had their good parts, but this particular coach was something special. And I would say, you know, he was high energy. He made you believe that you could run through a wall, and you could strike out, and you just felt like you were disappointed, but it was like he wouldn't even let you be disappointed, but he was fussing you out at the same time. It was just really, it was a unique experience. It's like you just left feeling like I have to get better at baseball because he loves baseball so much. I don't even know if I like it, but I'm going to like it because he likes it. And it was just that he was so authentic. And, you know, I went to his business one day where he works, and he had the same energy. And then it was even more of a draw to him because, like, you know, he's really being who he is. Like, he's not pretending to do this because you're supposed to motivate kids. It's like, no, this is who he is, and he just loves it. And it just made me want to be around him and play harder for him than I had for anybody up to that point. And so it's just being authentic, just be who you are. You know, we took our school we took all of our teachers down to Ron Clark Academy. So I don't know if you've had a chance to experience or see it. And I think as a charter school, they're not a charter, but they do some innovative things, and it's definitely worth checking out. But, you know, he is a unique type of leader. And when we came back, you know, our teachers started asking me, are you going to do that? Are you going to do this? Are you going to get on the desk like him? And I was like, well, I said, no, I don't think so. I said, there are definitely some things that I appreciate about their dynamic and their style. I said, but that's Ron Clark. And if I do that, and if I try to pretend to be Ron Clark, it's going to be fake, and you'll see it, and I won't be committed to it. I'll do it just because this is the newest thing, but I have to be who I am. I have to find ways to motivate, encourage, and to push you with who I am, because I'm not that high energy all the time. I don't have that type of, like, I'm not going to get up and do a dance with the students every day. But in the areas that I'm passionate and real about, you're going to get all of me, and probably more than what you actually want. So it's just being authentic, just be yourself. Next piece was really pushing yourself. It's really pushing yourself. And, you know, if you made it to a leadership position, you're probably already ahead of most of your colleagues or friends that you grew up with. You've already done a lot, and you're like, well, I'm really full. Like, I'm maxed out. And, you know, I heard an example, and I want to share it. I want to show it. It's a great example. And so there was a professor talking, and he was like, so just tell me, is this full? Is this jar full? Would y'all say it's full or not?
No.
Not full?
No, it's not full.
No, it's not.
we're in the right conversation with our leaders. That's right. Because see, there's still some air gaps. There's space. Right. So if I take this bag of rice and I pour it in, now I'm filling in that space that it looked like it may have been full, and to the untrained eye, but you know, y'all are advanced leaders, so you catch that, you realize there's a lot of space left. All right, so now if I take the rest of this bag, 2-3 bags of rice, and pour it in there, will it be full then?
I don't think it's full until it's overflowing. When it's overflowing, that's when we know it's full.
Right. That's exactly right. And so he took that jar, he filled it up with the rice. And then after that, there was still some space. So he took some water and poured around the rest. Right. And then once that water started overflowing, then we knew it was full. And so it's really pushing ourselves. And I think that's why a lot of us were drawn to charters. I know for myself it was because, you know, I worked in the district and I love my school because I love school. I love education. I haven't been in any school that I didn't enjoy, but it was, hey, somebody will do it or downtown will do it. We don't have a downtown. So it had to be us creating it and doing it and finding new ways to push ourselves. But when we did that, we would come up with some of the best ideas, or we'd find ways like, wow, I didn't know I could even do that. Or you push others to pull that out of themselves. And so that's something that we have to continually push, especially as charters, you know, be innovative, you know, push the limits a little bit. You know, I kind of joke around with Ms. Cheek. I said, look, if we're going to play it safe, we can go back to the district. Like, if we're going to be a charter, like, we need to push the limits. We need to test the limits. We need to see what it is that we can do that's different, because that's why we're here. We're not here to do the same thing. We're not here to have school as usual. We're here to make a difference and to push those limits. So I like the feedback, because that lets me know you're already doing those things and you've already got that vision. And so it's really sharing and building that into other leaders now, sharing that vision that you have, sharing that commitment, and they're going to have to hear it over and over and over and over again, at least 16 times for them to really catch on to that same excitement, that same fervor, that same energy that you have, for them to get it and keep working. So we get everybody going in the same direction. So the next one is having bold humility. Now, it seems like it doesn't make sense, but it makes perfect sense if you apply it the right way. It's that walking that line between confidence and but not being cocky. So it's like, we love this. We love what we do for our students. We love school. We love education. So we're going to be confident about what we know. But there's also going to be a humility that says there's still a lot that we don't know. We can learn from each other. We can pull a tip or a strategy from someone else and keep growing. We can learn from students. We can learn from interactions with parents. We always are open and willing to learn and get better without having to diminish what we know. And so for me, that was a struggle growing up. I understood the humility part. I could put my head down and I was kind of afraid to share what I knew, because it was like, oh, you don't want to look like you're bragging. And so I had to learn, like, no, I love this. I've learned it. I've worked hard for it, but I can still be open and actually speak it out to want to know as much as I can from as many sources. And then, you know, we went through this with, you know, if you've had your charter renewal process, we had some areas that we needed some growth in, and we had to change our mindset around somebody who was out to get us, and to, you know what, we have to have bold humility to say, you know what, we need some help. And so it you know, we had to call Sugar Creek, and we had to call Sally B. Howard and some of the schools that have been doing it for a long time and that have figured out how to work with these students. And we say, hey, we need to know some strategies. We need some help. How do we do this? And they opened their doors and they let us in, and they've given us strategies and documents, whatever we needed to help us keep moving forward. But we had to get over that pride of asking and just say, hey, I don't know. And we need I need your help. I need your help. Because at first I was afraid to ask. I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to look like the stupid guy or the guy that didn't know, or why are you doing this? But that was the only way to find out, was to ask, and just really becoming confident enough to say, I don't know. I need your help. And if you do make fun of me, I don't care, because I still need to know, because my kids and what we're trying to do are what's most important. And so the last one, and maybe the hardest, because it gets personal, is we got to be honest, but it's with ourselves first. Now we're pushing, we're always doing things for other people, we're always helping everybody else, and you're probably the good guy in your neighborhood, in your community, and you're probably the person that people look to for help. So it's easy to cover up some of our faults because we have a heart to do well and do good for others. But we really have to be honest with ourselves and be able to look at our faults, our shortcomings, our weaknesses, and say, hey, I need some help with that. I need a mentor. I need someone who I can talk to say, hey, I'm struggling with this thing, and I don't really like this teacher right now, and I don't like having this feeling. I need to come back and reassess that. You got to have that honesty with yourself before we can ever have to hold it to anybody in our organization or outside of us, and that's tough, but it's important. And I saw this little clip, and I wanted to share it. That kind of speaks to this idea. So I'm just going to play it, and then we can discuss it.
Our nose is located right above our mouth. Suppose you don't brush your teeth for 3 days. Though this nose is right here, it won't tell you you have not brushed your teeth. The whole room will know you have not brushed your teeth, but you will not know. This is the human predicament. It's very easy to see what's wrong with this guy, what's wrong with her, what's wrong with her. It takes a lot of observation to see what's wrong with this. That level of keenness of observation is missing in most people. They need to cultivate that.
So it was a super short clip, but it was just like, wow, yes, that's true. You forget it sometimes. And, we have our eyes and they look out, but I very rarely see myself. Even if I look in the mirror for 10, 15 minutes a day, I don't. But even if I did, it's still only 10 or 15 minutes, but I can always see what the people around me are doing wrong, or I'm always having to judge their intentions, or always having to make decisions, especially as a leader, about what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. And so we really have to take that time to invert those glasses and look back inside and say, all right, am I holding myself to the same standard? Am I pushing myself and holding myself accountable in the same ways? Am I driving myself? Am I disciplined enough in my own life and in my own areas? Am I getting better and not just pushing others to do that? And it's tough because sometimes we don't like the answers that we see. But as leaders, if we're able to do that, if we're able to look inside and check, kind of do a self-assessment, self-check, then we can continue to grow, and people will appreciate that vulnerability and that openness to say, oh, no, I'm not above this. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, and I'm open to that. And I want to continue to grow and get better. So that's just what we have. I just wanted to share those few things. And if anyone else, so we have a few others in the chat box. If anybody had any thoughts or anything they wanted to share with the group before we finish up.
Just want to say thank you, because I'm stepping into a role, as principal from someone who's been in this role for 14 years. So it was difficult, but what you did was to reaffirm a lot of the way that I lead. And it's nice to hear it from someone else when you're coming into feeling among their shoes. And people are still here looking at someone else as that leader. And then here I come. So thank you for just affirming that my walk right now and the way I'm leading is valuable and essential. I don't want to say correct or incorrect, but valuable and essential. So thank you, and I'm going to bus duty. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
That was great, Thomas and Angela. And that clip you had at the end of the guy talking about brushing your teeth and your nose, that was just unbelievable. I've never seen that before. I'd love to get a copy of that. It's so true. It's so true. Everybody else, we see everybody else's flaws, but our own. That's tough. I have one question for you before you go. And because, you know, the question is really about prioritizing. If you had time in the day to focus on only one thing, what would it be?
I won't say an item, but I'll say it's the thought process that we've been working on using is focus on the thing that only you can do. So when we go through the day, you're probably good at a lot of things, because if you're in a school, you're there because you love it. And so you can probably teach, you can probably work with students, you could probably tutor, mentor, a little bit of counseling, you can do some of it all. But if there's someone else who can do that, let them do it. But there are going to be certain things in your day that only you can do. And that's what you have to focus on. Like, you have to define that list of what can you do and no one else, and focus on that. And so it kind of speaks, I kind of have a saying, it's like, don't try to do everything, but be willing to do anything.
That's great.
When I started, it was like I was trying to do everything. Like, I literally, because we only had 8 people. I mean, we were a small school. And so that was what was needed. But once we moved, it's like, you have to let those things go. Like, don't try to do everything. You don't have to fix every problem. Let the people that you've hired do that, but be willing to do anything.
Right.
And so that was the piece that I didn't want to lose. And so this example today, bus driver shortage everywhere. We all know that. Bus driver quit. That great resignation is real. Like, she just texted, just like, I'm done. I'm not coming back. So, so I've been driving the bus for about 2-3 weeks now. And so, yeah, I'm hearing the kids line up inside. So it's about time to go. But it's not that I want to, or that we have to keep doing it, but I have to be willing to do anything, because that's what we need right now. But once that's taken care of, I've got to get back to those larger level activities that say, hey, how are we continuing to move instruction? How are we building our organization? How are we growing? So it's just, don't try to do everything, but be willing to do anything.
And sometimes one of the hardest things to do can be to give up control and to delegate to other people. But what is it I heard one time? If somebody can do a task at least as well as you can, then you need to give them a chance to do it.
Let them do it. Yes.
Yeah, there's some percentages involved in that, but I just remember that if they can do it as well as you can, if not better, then give it up and let them do it.
And so it goes to another point we were just talking about. Is like, if that's the case, then our goal or our dream for ourselves and what we're doing as a leader is not big enough. If it's not uncomfortable, if other people could do it, and if it's not making us uncomfortable to think about it, then it's not big enough yet. It should be a little uncomfortable. It should feel like I might fail at this. And when you have that feeling of like, I might really fail, I might really look bad, then you're starting to get close to what you really could do as a leader.
Wow. Yeah. Well, just between you and me, I feel that way every day.
And the association is doing great work. We
Oh,
appreciate you.
Thank you. And,
fighting on our
before
behalf.
everybody goes, I was just going to say, everybody on this call is a member of the association. And I just can't tell you how much that means to me, because it means that you've invested in the organization and you've invested in me. And that's a powerful thing, just like you invest in your teachers and your students and your families every day. So I understand what that means. Thank you so much. Thank you, Angela and Thomas. Y'all, man, really great pearls of wisdom. I can see why you're charter school principal of the year, Thomas. And we'll definitely be sharing this with everyone who registered. And I just want to say thanks again. And y'all reach out to me anytime I can be of service. That's what I'm here for. Yeah, hey, everybody, have a great afternoon. And before you go, though, let me tell you this. Our next principal exchange will be on October 26th. And that one is going to be on charter school finance. So if you need to know how, finance works, the funding model works for charter schools, this will be a really important session for you. All right. So talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
All
you.
right, have a nice one. Thank you.